Peace, Father and Mother Divine. Peace, everyone. I wanted to share a few thoughts today on two different things that I think would be helpful to people who feel some initial pull or draw to Father Divine, but don't quite know what to do to strengthen or deepen that connection. The first thing is the word connection itself. And the important thing to recognize there is that Father was not talking about going somewhere geographically and meeting a specific person and shaking their hands. It's like Father's healing methods were impersonal. It didn't require that he touch you, and he didn't conduct healing services. He didn't lay hands on people. It was a completely different phenomenon. Similarly, contact is an electrical metaphor. At some point we'll have an episode going into some detail on Father's use of electricity metaphors. He identifies himself and the Holy Spirit as being something like electricity. Well, contact is an electrical metaphor, like when you plug something in and you establish the metal prongs of the thing you're plugging in, establish contact with the metal conducting electricity in the walls of the house, and you have established contact. And the contact means that you are causing electrical flow that creates the desirable results. So to have contact with Father Divine isn't so much knowing a personality as feeling this living flow of spirit or energy or vitality being transmitted from the source to you, in the same way that electricity travels over the wires and once contact is made can travel through the two connected things. So to make your contact is an electrical metaphor. You are hooking into the power supply. It's important to remember that Father says he's a live wire, and you don't want to mess with the live wire indiscriminately or insincerely, because you don't know what you're doing. But if you approach it properly and with the right kind of understanding, then it is a blessing to you, and it can work marvels, power your supply. So that's something to keep in mind. Contact is an electrical metaphor, and it's a metaphor for the transmission of spiritual energy between God and the individual soul. So making your contact with Father Divine means establishing a living flow from him as the source to you. And that would manifest differently in different people's lives. But I would say that if you have the desire to make contact with Father Divine, you really have that contact already, and you only need to nurture that contact, and it will deepen and unfold many mysteries in your life and in Father Divine's words. He will unfold things to you in his written and spoken words that perhaps no one has understood before, perhaps that are meant just for you in your particular context at this particular moment. So that's the first thing. Contact, electrical metaphor, means transmission of spiritual energy. The second set of things is a set of observations that I gleaned from the time that I was personally present with Mother Divine, and from having an archival role in looking after her papers and records thereafter. And those observations are about how Mother Divine herself, being the Divine Mother, God, playing the role of the ideal devotee, how she modeled for us seeking guidance, how to seek guidance. And these are things that I particularly observed even in Mother's later years. These things were all still operative and observable to anyone who was present with her for any extended period of time. I think the very first and primary thing is that Mother Divine was always attuned to Father Divine's spirit from the earliest days in British Columbia, before she made personal physical contact with Father Divine in Philadelphia. She had this spiritual contact from her teenage years. So she had a living spiritual contact with Father before she was a formal member of the Peace Mission, let alone Mother Divine. So the primary and most important thing would be to have that living contact with Father Divine, to feel that contact. She would visualize him, she would take his name, she would be consciously mindful of his actual living presence, and she and everyone in her presence would use present tense in reference to Father's active spiritual presence. So she was attuned to Father's presence not as something far off and distant, but as something ever present and near. She had years of lived experience with Father in many lives. But for her and for each one of us, one of the primary ways of tuning ourselves to Father's Spirit is to saturate ourselves with Father Divine's words, to read and study deeply his written words and his spoken, and to hear his spoken words. And these have different effects on the consciousness, to read the words or to study the words deeply or to hear the words in Father's own voice, ideally when possible, and Mother's voice secondarily when that is possible. But many messages have never been recorded, and so that is for us to do now if we wish to share them in modern technologies. But using those things to saturate our consciousness in Father Divine's words so that we are familiar with his expressed ideas, views, opinions, and so forth. Well, Mother had this, number one, she had this consciousness of Father's Spirit. And another aspect of that was awareness of what Father had said in the record on specific issues. And so she would consult the written record. But as a matter of daily spiritual discipline, every single day, she was saturating herself more and more, again and again, in Father's words. She also respected Father's Spirit in the bodies of other people, particularly when they had devotion or expertise or some kind of experience that gave them a level of insight that brought blessings to a situation. Mother would listen to those people, and she would consult those people, and she would have a committee established to look at particular issues and problems. So Mother did consult she did look at, respect, honor the wisdom in other people, both other followers the body of the church, and more broadly, the expertise that God had placed in people in the world who might be consulted on particular issues, perhaps medical issues, perhaps archival issues. There were, when in the early years when the library was being planned, there were many archival experts and museum experts consulted about how things should be done. So she respected Father's presence and wisdom and ability to speak in and through those sorts of more human connections. I believe that Mother sometimes saw Father visibly, as many followers have done, I have done, and many others have done. So I'm quite sure that Mother would have that experience available to her. I believe that she did discuss such things with very closely trusted people, but she did not generally discuss those things in public. There are a few instances when she did refer to such things, but strong evidence and likelihood that Mother personally saw Father after 1965. And she certainly did see him in dreams. I did hear her mention that on more than one occasion, and I heard others refer to dreams that Mother had had in years past. And Father has also come to me in dreams, and I think many followers that I've, if not all, have at some point had a meaningful dream. And when it's a meaningful dream of Father, you will really feel it, and it will be different. It will have a very different quality than just an ordinary dream. You'll know that there's something significant about it. Along with listening to others directly when there was a question to consult an expert on, or a general question affecting the church where she may ask senior followers what they felt about something or what the Spirit was leading them. In addition to that, she would hear testimonies frequently, all the time. Generally every day there would be banquets or other church functions where Mother was constantly engaged with other people, and for hours at a time hearing strings of people stand up and speak from their heart and from their spirit about what was in their lives. And when you're in that kind of environment, and particularly when you're called to some leadership position, let alone the preeminent leadership position that Mother held and holds, intuition and synchronicity speak through these events, meaningful coincidences, signs, and so forth. So God was able to reach Mother through the personal presence, also through dreams and visitations, through familiarity with the Word, through human agency that was conducive to expressing the kind of knowledge that God wanted to convey, and through signs and synchronicities. All of these things function in everyone's life. And can be called upon and developed. And if you are nurturing a connection with Father Divine, if you have that desire to feel and experience Father Divine more and more deeply, then you will be giving time and attention and energy to it, and it will naturally increase in your life, and your sincerity will call forth the desire that you the result that you desire. Your sincerity will call forth the result that you desire. And that will inevitably happen if you are sincerely motivated and proceeding from this intuition that there is something here in Father, Mother Divine that you want to know more about, and that can bless you in your life and spiritual progress. So if that's your motivation, it will happen for you, and in proportion to the time and energy you allow for it. You just open the door, you allow the possibility for God to speak to you, and God will indeed find a way to speak to you in your context, in your language, and in a way that you will recognize. Mother did also consult the Bible, and she also had a respect for many other religious traditions, and she would hear, read about, discuss, and sometimes visit other religions. So she was also aware of religious history and religious legacies as a potential place for God to speak and to appear. Now, all of these other things are subordinate to her awareness of Father's Spirit and her awareness of Father's stated words, his recorded words. All of these other things would be filtered through those. Lastly, I do know that Mother did sometimes use a pendulum. Also bibliomancy. I mean, she would read the Bible and hear the Bible talked about or presented, but she would also, she and Father Divine, would sometimes flip, so-called at random, in the Bible to arrive at a certain passage at random and see if it addressed the given situation. So that is a practice that Father and Mother both personally sanctioned. Although with the caveat, this was not something done frequently or habitually, and not cavalierly either. You would be trying to be in Father's mind and spirit, and you would be asking Father's Spirit to show you something that you need to know about the current situation, and then opening at random, or especially if it's a bigger, heavier one, you can put it on the table and kind of let it fall open to a particular passage. And those kinds of things were done by Father and Mother Divine. A pendulum also, which might be surprising. I was kind of surprised when I learned that Mother Divine personally used a pendulum on some occasions. It was, again, not something that was done all the time, not some kind of habit or over-reliance, and not any kind of undue authority given to it. It would always have been asking Father's Spirit to show something. And this is not foreign either to biblical tradition, in the sense that the Hebrew scriptures talk about the high priest having the Urim and Thummim, and also divining in other methods. And then in the Greek scriptures, you have the apostles drawing lots to determine who would replace Judas, and allowing the Spirit of God to speak through that method. And so I think when Mother Divine did use a pendulum, it was in reference to that kind of sacred thinking. Mother was also aware, though, that Father said that God is the subconscious. The subconscious mind is the source of the pendulum answer, but it is God in the subconscious mind from her perspective, and in relation to what Father said there. What is a pendulum? If you don't know what a pendulum is, it's simply a heavy weight on a string suspended in a way that it can move freely. And traditionally, you can ask yes, no, and maybe questions very easily with these. Maybe someday I'll go into greater depth about how to use pendulum in a sacred way. But you can, one traditional way is to hold it over your hand like this, and you can either ask it to show you which direction is yes, which direction is no, which direction is maybe, or you can rely on the traditional ones, which my understanding is what Mother's logic was in doing it. And that is, if the pendulum is moving back and forth the length of your hand like that, it is yes. And if it's moving crosswise, it's a no. And if it's moving in a rotating fashion, clockwise, it is no, probably. Counterclockwise, no, probably not. Maybe, it's maybe. Probably, and maybe, probably not. And the speed of the answer sometimes it'll be very, very slow and barely moving at all, and sometimes it will move like that. And the key is that you're not moving it yourself with your fingers, as I have done in this demonstration, but that you are rather letting God move through your own subconscious mind. All the answers are already there, because the subconscious is a gateway to the infinite consciousness of God. It doesn't itself house, your personal subconscious does not itself house the infinite consciousness of God, but it is a gateway. Same place that dreams are coming from. And it's not surprising, because God is within you. Father Divine, Mother Divine are living within you. And the question is, are we making it a fit habitation for them to live in? And I hope that we're all doing at least a little bit every day to clean the space and make it more pleasant and agreeable to the Spirit of God, the ultimate beloved. So I think those are the points that I wanted to cover in this reflection. And I hope that they're meaningful to someone. Thank you. Peace out.